Hello, I'm Richard Barnard, and I want to talk to you about a piece of mine called Aura. As ever, all my choral music starts with text, trying to find the right poem to set to music. And I found in this collection by 2017 by Emily Berry. So I found this poem called Aura. The whole collection is about the poet's loss of her mother when she was young, and that coming to terms and dealing with grief and what that means. And this is just a beautiful poem, quite simple, just in these interesting two columns. So one sentence, no punctuation, and using quite simple language to express really complicated, emotional, powerful ideas about death and about grief and about connection and the relationship between the living and the dead. I was commissioned by the Gesualdo Six to write something for them with trumpeter Matilda Lloyd. So it was a co-commission between Matilda and the Gesualdo Six. And I immediately thought of this poem and how it would work spatially. So having three of the singers one side and three of the singers the other, singing each half of the poem, the columns, then I like the way that would be quite interesting, how a sentence moves from one voice to the other, still having a sense of continuity all the way through. And the idea of the trumpet almost being those little spaces in between. And what's beautiful about the poem is the way that it comes together here, where it's almost like the columns squeeze together and then touch in this line where it talks about no separation between the living and the dead. And so that's a really big moment in the piece as well. So I began with thinking about the ranges of the singers. So I had that in mind, splitting the group up into alto, tenor, baritone, alto, tenor, bass. So two equalish groups. And then thinking about how the trumpet immediately would be a kind of thread joining them together. I read it quite quickly, just starting at the beginning. And I think what was important about this piece was I wanted it to be very natural in the way that you would say the phrases. So the rhythms and the shapes of the phrases are quite close to how you would say them and quite natural. And that actually often led to this kind of 7/8 slightly lilting rhythm. And yeah, you can kind of see how the melody goes between the two. So you get sometimes overlapping as the piece progresses. So it starts off with that, actually they're very separate. And then as the piece progresses, the voices overlap and merge a little bit like the poem. The lines gradually get closer. I did this sketch draft and with a few little bits that I needed to rewrite, but largely I wrote it quite fast. And I think, yeah, you can see this bit where the trumpet on that shimmer moment, and the trumpet plays a kind of fanfare-y, expansive section. I worked on that quite a lot, and this kind of rhythm of the semitone as well, the C to D flat. That became quite important. Just tension between the two notes, a little bit like the tension between the two sides of the poem. That little semitone, that becomes quite an important theme through the whole piece. It moves through quite a few different keys. So ending up in this kind of A major and then a big C major moment at the end, where I created this quite the biggest chord with the low E in the bass and the top C in the alto. So the score itself, I specified the layout where I wanted that separation literally in the space as well. So you get the two sides of the choir with the trumpet in the middle. So that's how they perform it. They've done it live a few times. So it largely went through as planned. I think there was some particular moments of text I wanted to, so every word I wanted to really mean something in the music. So you get this idea of the calamity, which refers, I think, to the death of her mother. So that moment, and to get them suddenly together on those C, that unison C, with the trumpet as well. So quite a harsh unison note. So no harmony, very bare, very exposed. And then after that it becomes softer and more harmonious and richer sounds. I think, you get this quite syncopated rhythms. Then these big moment of the shimmer where they all come together in a big chord, and the trumpet comes to the foreground there. Obviously the word aura was quite an important moment, so I spent quite a long time on that, really exploring the sound of the word and the vowels, the different changing vowels between or and ra, which I quite enjoyed exploring. And this tune, Remarkable Sadness, I think is quite an important melodic idea as well, and I even splitting it up between the voices, and then the trumpet takes it over at the end. I think so the role of the trumpet is interesting. So sometimes it's accompanying, sometimes it's joining with the voices, and then sometimes it's adding something extra, an extra sparkle, an extra shimmer, even an extra voice here, singing the tune that you've heard. So it kind of helps to have that sense of what the text was before, the remarkable sadness, in amongst the texture, in quite a hopeful ending. Keep looking and I would see you. And with this just resting on this big C first inversion C major chord, which I love, and that just expands out to the end, and again ending with the trumpet with that little rising semitone between the B and C natural as it fades away. And that's my piece. And you can hear that on the latest disc from the Gesualdo 6 and Matilda Lloyd, called Radiant Dawn. They're performing it and touring it around. It's going to be at the Wigmore Hall soon, and I hope you enjoy it.